The nurse's hand froze mid-swipe on her tablet. Her eyes darted from the screen to my face, then back again, like she was watching a tennis match only she could see. Is everything okay? I asked, forcing a smile despite the throbbing pain in my left arm. The car accident 3 hours ago had left me bruised and bloodied, but the doctor said I'd be fine. Just needed a transfusion and some stitches. She didn't answer. Instead, she set the tablet down with trembling fingers and walked out without a word, leaving me alone in the sterile white room with nothing but the beep of machines and the metallic taste of fear in my mouth. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Let me back up. My name is Emma Carter, and until 3 hours ago, I thought I knew exactly who I was. 28 years old, graphic designer, freelancer working from my cramped studio apartment in San Francisco. Raised by my Aunt Linda after my parents died in a tragic car accident when I was 6 months old. That's the story I'd been told my entire life. That's the story I believed. Aunt Linda had always been there. Stern, controlling, but there. She managed my finances because, as she constantly reminded me, your parents left debts. Emma. Mountains of debt. I sacrificed everything to give you a life. The least you can do is let me make sure you don't squander what little we have. I never questioned it. Why would I? She was all I had. The hospital room door burst open. Not the nurse, but 3 people in dark suits. The woman in front had short silver hair, and the kind of face that had seen too many horrible things. Behind her, 2 men with earpieces and expressions carved from granite. Emma Carter? Her voice was professional, clipped. Yes? My heart hammered against my ribs. She pulled out a badge. FBI. Special Agent Rebecca Morrison. I need you to stay calm. Can you do that for me? I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. I managed a nod. Agent Morrison pulled up a chair and sat directly in front of me, her eyes never leaving mine. When your blood work came back, the hospital ran it through our national DNA database. It's standard procedure for trauma cases. Emma, your DNA matches a missing person case from 1996. The room tilted. That's impossible. I'm not missing. I'm right here. Emma, your real name is Olivia Chen. You're the daughter of David and Margaret Chen, founders of Chen Technologies. 28 years ago, your Aunt Linda Chen reported that you died in the same car accident that supposedly killed your parents. She presented death certificates for all 3 of you. She claimed sole survivorship of your parents' estate. My throat closed. You're wrong. My parents are dead. I've seen their graves. Those graves are empty, Emma. Your parents are alive. They've been searching for you for 28 years. The world shattered. Everything I knew, everything I believed, everything I was, disintegrated in that single moment. The walls seemed to close in. The fluorescent lights became too bright. Agent Morrison kept talking, but her words sounded like they were coming through water. Chen Technologies is now valued at $2.3 billion. Your aunt has been serving as CFO for the past 2 decades. Our financial crimes division has been investigating her for suspected embezzlement, but we had no idea about you. Emma, you're not just alive. You're an heiress to one of the largest tech companies in Silicon Valley. I wanted to laugh. Wanted to scream. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "Where's my aunt?" Agent Morrison's expression hardened. She's been notified of your accident. She's on her way here now with what she claims is a medical power of attorney. We can't let her take you. Not until we verify everything. But she raised me. She's all I've had for 28 years. Emma, listen to me carefully. Your aunt has been depositing your father's CEO salary into offshore accounts for decades. She's been using your death certificate to maintain control of the company. If she knew you were alive and your DNA was in the system, everything she's built would collapse. Do you understand what I'm saying? The door opened again. This time, it was Aunt Linda. She looked exactly as she always did. Perfectly styled auburn hair, designer pantsuit, diamond earrings that caught the light. But her eyes, those pale blue eyes I'd looked into 1,000 times, held something I'd never seen before. Fear. Emma, sweetheart. Her voice was honey, concern dripping from every syllable. I came as soon as I heard. Are you all right? These people haven't been bothering you, have they? Agent Morrison stood, placing herself between us. Miss Chen, I'm going to need you to step back. Aunt Linda's expression shifted from concern to confusion to outrage in the span of a heartbeat. Excuse me? This is my niece. I have legal guardianship. She's 28 years old. And you have no legal claim to Olivia Chen. The name hung in the air like a gunshot. Aunt Linda's face went white, then red, then completely blank. It was the blankness that terrified me most. I'd seen her angry before. Seen her disappointed. Seen her cold. But this emptiness was new. I don't know what lies you've been telling my niece, she said slowly, carefully. But I have documentation. Death certificates. Legal records. I've raised this child from infancy. You reported her dead, Agent Morrison said flatly. You forged documents stating that David and Margaret Chen, along with their infant daughter Olivia, died in a vehicle collision on Highway 101 on March 15, 1996. You then assumed control of Chen Technologies as the sole surviving family member. That's absurd. But her voice wavered. I found my voice. It sounded small, broken. Aunt Linda, tell them it's not true. Tell them you're my aunt. Tell them you saved me. She looked at me then. Really looked at me. And in that look, I saw the truth. I saw 28 years of calculated lies. I saw a woman who had stolen not just money, not just a company, but an entire life. Emma, honey, they're confused. Your parents died. I have the death certificates in my office. We'll sort this all out. Stop calling her Emma, Agent Morrison said. Her name is Olivia. Her name is whatever I say it is. The mask slipped. Aunt Linda's voice cracked with rage. I raised her. I fed her, clothed her, educated her. She's mine. The two agents behind Morrison moved forward. One spoke into his radio. Subject is becoming agitated. Requesting backup. Aunt Linda lunged toward me. Not to hurt me, I don't think, but to grab me. To take me. To maintain control. The agents caught her arms, pulling her back. You ungrateful little bitch, she hissed. Do you know what I've done for you? Do you know what I've sacrificed? Your parents didn't want you. They were going to put you up for adoption. I saved you from that. I gave you everything. You gave me lies. The words came out stronger than I expected. You gave me 28 years of lies. They removed her from the room. Her screams echoed down the hospital corridor, each one carving deeper into my soul. When silence finally fell, I realized I was shaking. Agent Morrison sat back down. Her voice was gentler now. I know this is overwhelming. We have counselors who specialize in cases like this. And Emma, your parents, your real parents, they want to see you. They're on their way from Palo Alto right now. It's your choice whether you want to meet them. Did I want to meet them? Did I want to look into the faces of strangers and call them mom and dad? Did I want to learn about a life I never lived, grieve for a childhood I never had? Tell me about them, I whispered. Agent Morrison pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. A couple in their 50s. The woman had dark hair like mine, the same sharp cheekbones. The man had kind eyes and a smile that seemed familiar in a way I couldn't explain. Your father is David Chen. He's been CEO of Chen Technologies since he founded it 30 years ago. Your mother, Margaret, runs the Chen Foundation, a nonprofit focused on finding missing children. After you disappeared, she dedicated her life to helping other families. They never gave up looking for you, Olivia. Not for a single day. I stared at the photo. These people were strangers. But they were also my parents. They were also the truth I'd been denied my entire life. There's something else you need to know, Morrison continued. We've been investigating your aunt for the past 6 months. She's embezzled approximately $847 million from Chen Technologies over the past 2 decades. She's used shell corporations, offshore accounts, and your fabricated death certificate to justify the transfers. She convinced the board that the money was going to research and development, charity initiatives, things that sounded legitimate. How did she think she'd get away with it? She almost did. If you hadn't needed that blood transfusion, if your DNA hadn't been entered into the database, we might never have made the connection. She's been very careful. Very patient. But Emma, there's more. My stomach dropped. What? When the hospital called her about your accident, she asked very specific questions. She wanted to know if you needed a transfusion, what your blood type was, whether they'd run any genetic tests. One of our agents was monitoring the call. She seemed less concerned about your well-being and more concerned about what tests were being performed. The implications hung in the air like poison gas. You think she would have hurt me? If she knew. Morrison didn't answer directly. I think your aunt is a woman who has spent 28 years building an empire on a foundation of lies. I think she's desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. The door opened again. This time, a doctor entered, followed by 2 people who moved like they were walking through a dream. David and Margaret Chen. My parents. The woman, Margaret, put a hand to her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. Olivia, she breathed. Oh my God. Olivia. David stood frozen. Like he was afraid that if he moved, I'd disappear. We thought we'd lost you forever, he said, his voice cracking. Every day for 28 years, we wondered where you were, if you were safe, if you were happy. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to be their daughter. I'd been Emma Carter my entire life. Olivia Chen was a stranger's name. But when Margaret crossed the room and wrapped her arms around me, something inside me broke open. She smelled like jasmine and vanilla. She held me like I was precious, like I was a miracle, like I was exactly where I belonged. I'm so sorry, She whispered into my hair. I'm so sorry we couldn't protect you. I'm so sorry you grew up without us. David joined the embrace, and for the first time in my life, I felt complete. I didn't understand it. Couldn't explain it. But some deep, ancient part of me recognized them. Knew them. Belonged to them. We stayed like that for a long time. When we finally pulled apart, Margaret wouldn't let go of my hand. Tell me everything, I said. I need to know everything. David pulled up a chair. Margaret sat on the edge of my hospital bed, and they told me my story. The real one. They'd been young when I was born. David had just started Chen Technologies with Margaret as his business partner. Linda was David's older sister, the CFO, the person they trusted most in the world. When I was 6 months old, they'd taken a weekend trip to Napa Valley, leaving me with Linda. We came back to an empty house, Margaret said, her voice hollow with remembered pain. Linda was gone. You were gone. There was a note saying she'd taken you to the park. Hours passed. We called the police. They found Linda's car abandoned on Highway 101, completely destroyed. There was blood. So much blood. The police told us there'd been an accident, David continued. They said all 3 of you had been killed. Linda, and you, and another woman they assumed was a nanny. The bodies were burned beyond recognition. They used dental records to identify Linda. The other 2 victims were listed as Jane Does, but Linda had filed paperwork, identifying one as you. We buried empty caskets. We mourned. But Linda wasn't dead, I said. No. She'd staged the entire thing. Faked her own death, faked yours, used cadavers from a medical facility where she had connections. She waited 6 months, then resurfaced with a new identity, claiming to be Linda Chen's daughter, the niece of David Chen. She had documents, witnesses, everything. The real Linda Chen's daughter. We never suspected. Why would we? But I look like you, I said to Margaret. Didn't anyone notice? She dyed your hair blonde when you were young. Told everyone you took after your other side of the family. By the time you were old enough to question it, you'd been Emma Carter for so long that you didn't remember being anyone else. Agent Morrison spoke up. We believe Linda planned this for years. She'd been skimming money from the company even before Olivia was born. But when your parents started talking about expanding the board, bringing in external oversight, she panicked. She needed more control, and the only way to get it was to eliminate the competition. She tried to kill you. The words tasted bitter. She tried to kill all of us. She would have succeeded, David said quietly, if you hadn't gotten in that accident today. If your DNA hadn't been flagged, we'd still be mourning a daughter who was alive all along. The full weight of it crashed over me. 28 years. 28 birthdays she'd attended. 28 Christmases. Thousands of days where she'd looked me in the eye and lied. Where she'd called me niece instead of prisoner. Where she'd stolen, not just my family, not just my inheritance, but my entire identity. What happens now? I asked. Now we build a case, Morrison said. Linda Chen is being charged with kidnapping, fraud, embezzlement, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit murder. The SEC is investigating the financial crimes. We have enough evidence to put her away for the rest of her life. But we need your help, David added. Your testimony. Your memories. Anything you can tell us about her activities, her associates, where she kept documents. I thought about the storage unit. Aunt Linda had a storage unit in Oakland that she visited once a month. She told me it was full of my parents' belongings, things too painful to keep at home. I'd never been inside. There's a place, I said. She has a storage unit. She goes there on the 1st of every month. She's very particular about it. Never lets anyone go with her. Morrison nodded, making notes. We'll get a warrant. Emma. I know this is difficult, but you're doing the right thing. The right thing. I wasn't sure I knew what that was anymore. Over the next 3 weeks, my life became a surreal blur of depositions, DNA tests, legal proceedings, and therapy sessions. The storage unit had contained boxes of forged documents, offshore account statements, and a laptop with detailed records of every dollar Linda had stolen. But that wasn't all they found. In a locked safe at the back of the unit, they discovered a journal. Linda's journal. I made the mistake of reading it. The 15th of March 1996. It's done. The accident is staged. The bodies are burned. David and Margaret think their daughter is dead. In 6 months, I'll return as myself, claim my rightful place. They'll never know. The 2nd of September 1996, Emma is adjusting well. She doesn't remember them. Doesn't ask questions. She's mine now. Completely mine. The 25th of December 2004, Emma asked about her parents today. I showed her the fabricated photos, told her the story. She cried. I comforted her. This is easier than I thought it would be. The 18th of June 2012, David wants to expand the board. Bring in external auditors. Fool. If he'd just stayed content with what we had, none of this would have been necessary. Emma graduates high school next week. She's talking about art school. I'll allow it. Keep her dependent. Keep her controllable. The 3rd of November 2019, Emma is becoming difficult. Asking too many questions about money, about her inheritance from her parents. I've convinced her there is none. That they left only debts. She believes me. She always believes me. The 8th of January 2024. The FBI is sniffing around the company accounts. I've covered my tracks, but I can't be too careful. Emma is my insurance policy. As long as she believes she's Emma Carter, as long as she doesn't know the truth, I'm safe. The 12th of March 2024. Close call today. Emma mentioned getting one of those Ancestry DNA kits. I talked her out of it, said they're scams. Need to be more careful. She's getting older. Harder to control. The last entry was dated 3 days before my accident. The 2nd of April 2024. If anything goes wrong, if she ever finds out, I'll have to make a choice. I've already made it once. I can make it again. The implications were clear. If I'd discovered the truth on my own, she would have killed me. Actually killed me this time. The woman who raised me, who I'd called Aunt Linda for 28 years, had been planning my murder. The trial was a media circus. Tech heiress found alive after 28 years. CFO charged with kidnapping and embezzlement. It was the kind of story that dominated headlines for weeks. I sat in the courtroom every day, watching Linda across the aisle. She never looked at me, never acknowledged me. She'd hired the best defense attorneys money could buy and they tried every angle. They argued statute of limitations on the kidnapping. The prosecutor countered that the crime was ongoing, that every day she'd kept me from my parents was a new act of kidnapping. They argued that she genuinely believed she was acting in my best interest. The journal entries proved otherwise. They argued that the embezzlement was a misunderstanding, complex financial transactions taken out of context. The SEC's forensic accountants buried them with evidence. Then came the moment that changed everything. The prosecution played a recording from the hospital. They placed a wire on one of the nurses, catching Linda's visit to my room on the day of my accident. Miss Chen, Emma is stable. She needed a blood transfusion, but she's going to be fine. Did you run any tests? Any genetic panels? It's standard procedure for trauma cases. We run blood work, tissue typing, DNA matching in case there are complications. DNA matching. I see. And has anything come back yet? The results are still being processed. Is there a reason you're concerned? There was a pause on the recording. Then Linda's voice, cold and calculated, no. No reason. Just want to make sure my niece is getting the best care. When will she be released? We're hoping in a few days if there are no complications. I see. Well, let me know if anything unusual comes up. Anything at all. The recording ended. The courtroom was silent. Then the prosecution played a second recording. This one from a phone call Linda made immediately after leaving the hospital. It's me. We have a problem. Emma was in an accident. They ran her DNA. I need you to access the hospital database and delete any flags. Yes, I know it's risky. Do you know what's more risky? 28 years of work destroyed because of a car accident. Fix it. Now. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Linda Chen was sentenced to 45 years in federal prison. At 62 years old, it was effectively a life sentence. When the verdict was read, she finally looked at me. Her expression wasn't anger or remorse or even hatred. It was disappointment. Like I'd failed her somehow. Like by surviving, by discovering the truth, I'd been the ultimate ungrateful niece. I held her gaze and spoke the words I'd been rehearsing for weeks. You told me my parents left nothing but debts. Turns out, you owe me $2.3 billion. Her face crumpled. The bailiffs led her away. That was 6 months ago. Now, I sit in my real parents' home in Palo Alto. It's a beautiful house, full of light and space and memories of a life I should have lived. My room is exactly as they left it 28 years ago. A nursery frozen in time, waiting for a baby who grew up somewhere else. Margaret can't bring herself to change it. Sometimes I find her sitting in the rocking chair, staring at the mobile above the crib, crying quietly. David throws himself into work. He's teaching me the business, introducing me to the board, helping me understand the company that should have been my inheritance. I'm learning. Slowly. It's overwhelming, but I'm learning. The $847 million Linda stole has been recovered. Most of it, anyway. Enough to stabilize the company, to restore what she destroyed. I've been officially reinstated as Olivia Chen, heiress and now junior partner in Chen Technologies. But here's the thing they don't tell you about getting your life back. You don't know how to live it. I'm Olivia Chen on paper. I have the DNA results, the birth certificate, the legal documentation. But in my head, in my heart, I'm still Emma Carter. I still reach for the phone to call Aunt Linda when something good happens. I still sometimes forget that these kind, loving strangers are my parents. Therapy helps. Dr. Richardson specializes in cases like mine. Kidnapping victims. Identity reconstruction. She tells me it's normal to grieve for the life I had, even though it was built on lies. She tells me I'm allowed to miss the woman who raised me, even though she was a monster. You can hold both truths, she says. Linda was your kidnapper and your abuser. She was also the person who tucked you in at night and taught you to ride a bike. You're allowed to hate her for what she did and still feel loss for what you've lost. But it's hard. God, it's so hard. Margaret tries. She's patient and kind and never pushes. But I can see the longing in her eyes. She wants her daughter back. She wants the baby she lost, now grown and whole and theirs. I'm trying to be that for them. I really am. Last week, David asked me to join him at a board meeting. It was my first official appearance as Olivia Chen, heir apparent to Chen Technologies. I wore a suit Margaret picked out, styled my hair the way she suggested, practiced my smile in the mirror. When David introduced me to the board, he called me his daughter. His voice cracked on the word. The board members applauded. Some of them had tears in their eyes. They'd known me as a baby. They'd mourned me. Now I was back, resurrected. A miracle. I gave a short speech. Thanked them for their support. Promised to honor my parents' legacy. Said all the right things. Afterward, David hugged me. You were perfect, he whispered. Olivia, you were absolutely perfect. But I wasn't Olivia. Not really. Not yet. Maybe someday I will be. Maybe someday I'll look in the mirror and see Olivia Chen instead of Emma Carter. Maybe someday I'll stop feeling like an imposter in my own life. For now, I'm trying. I'm learning to answer to a name that still feels foreign. I'm learning to love parents I never knew I had. I'm learning to grieve for the aunt who wasn't really my aunt, who stole everything from me, who I still somehow miss. It's complicated. It's messy. It's going to take time. But I'm here. I'm alive. And after 28 years of living someone else's lie, I'm finally learning to live my own truth. Even if I'm not sure yet what that truth is.